Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce our next speaker. Is there anyone in the room that does not know the name Robert Groden? I don't see a single hand. Robert Groden, for those out in the audience who might be watching or who may be watching it on DVD later, Robert Groden is the person who is responsible for bringing the Zapruder film to the American public. Prior to his work, the American public had not seen the Zapruder film. And in his working with Geraldo Rivera, got it played on live television. What was it, 1975. So from 1963, November, until 1975 on Geraldo Rivera's live television program, the American public had not seen that video. And without his efforts, I doubt that we ever would. Robert Groden has been a pillar in the JFK assassination community. His works, if you haven't seen his photo books back there, they're a treasure. He has worked diligently for his entire life, or at least since the assassination, on this work. He's a giant in our community. I'm so grateful for him. He was going to be talking today about his life out there, the 84 tickets, but as you know, or most of you may know, he just got married this past Saturday. He's here with his wife Janet back there. So at the last minute, he decided that he's going to change his topic from what it was going to be to how to find happiness within the JFK community. And he's going to start a JFK dating website. Because I've known Robert since 2014, and I have never, ever seen him so happy. The smile I've seen on this man's face it wasn't there before, I can guarantee you. No, truly, we'll go ahead and back to the original topic. He's going to talk about his life on Daily Plaza and how many tickets? 84 tickets. 84 times he's been cited for selling books out at the Daily Plaza and won every case. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Robert Groden.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm glad to have an open period of time to talk about all kinds of stuff. Most importantly, of course, for me is my marriage to my beautiful baby there. Janet and I have been married now for not quite a week yet, and it's a wonderful experience. And yes, the only problem I've got is that I can't stop smiling and my cheeks are starting to hurt.
That's a good hurt.
Yeah, it's a good hurt, but very, very kinky. Anyway, somebody a long time ago told me that, to start a speech or talking about something, you start with a joke. Well, this is not exactly appropriate place to start a joke, but I was thinking of all the people I was going to mention today. One of them was Penn Jones. And Penn told me a joke, back in 1975. And basically it's a story about a man and a woman, and they're about to sit down to breakfast. And he looks at the table and there's a hole in it. He says, "Hey, honey, somebody ripped a hole in the table." And she looks and says, "No, that's a cut. Somebody took a knife or scissors. That's a cut." He said, "No, that's a rip." They go back and forth like this for about 15 or 20 minutes, and he's getting really, really angry. And he gets so angry, he hits her over the head with a baseball bat, throws her into a potato sack, and takes her down to the river and throws her down into the river. And she goes down once and comes up. He goes down a second time, comes back up, goes down a third time, and she comes back up, and her hand goes shooting out of the bag, and she goes. That's us, folks. We may be going down for the third time, maybe not, but we're not going to stop going like that. We're going to tell the truth about the assassination of Lee's innocence and all the rest of it, as long as we possibly can. There are a series of people who I'd like to talk about real quickly. People that have been really important to the case and to me, friendships and people that have contributed so much through the years. Bob Tannenbaum, for one, who was here yesterday. He's just magnificent, a real hero in the case. Cyril Wecht, who we saw, a brilliant man, great contributor to all of this, and a great friend. Josiah Thompson, Tink Thompson, who is not here, but who is in town, but he's not here. Phil Singer, Gary Shaw, Larry and Daryl Howard, and others and others and others. All contributed, all friends, all who've given so much to the study and to friendship. And I'd also like to put a shout out to all of you guys, the audience, those who care, those who listen. Without you, we'd be just banging our heads against the wall for nothing. You care, you contribute, you give input. It's really, really important. And may you guys never stop. Thank you. For those who are gone, there are just too many to mention them all. Harold Weisberg, Sylvia Marr, Penn Jones, Jim Mars, Dick Gregory, who made it possible for me to bring the Zapruder film to the American public. Mary Farrell, Larry Harris, and others. They're gone, but never forgotten. Some issues that have come up mentioned in the previous days that are kind of important. Somebody mentioned the ITEC Corporation and asked me if I could expand upon that. The ITEC Corporation is a photographic interpretation company which subsists almost entirely on Central Intelligence Agency contracts, the photo analysis for different satellite images and things of that nature. They did some work on the Hughes film when we discovered that there were images in the Hughes film. I found the Hughes film back in 1975 or 76 and mentioned that I had found that there was motion in the windows on the 6th floor in 3 separate windows. The so-called sniper's nest, the one next to it, and next one over in the next series of windows. And it became a challenge. CBS TV heard my analysis of all of this, and they got the original film, they brought it to ITEC, and ITEC did an analysis over a series of several weeks and published a report saying that I was crazy, there's nothing there. That's the report. Their working papers say something completely different. I was given access through somebody who worked up there to the actual working papers, and they said that there is an anomaly in the window. There is motion in all 3 windows, and there is somebody up there. But that's not what the report says. So there is confirming analysis of more than one person on the 6th floor. This is both the Hughes film and the Bronson film. Both of them show motion on the 6th floor in more than one window. So whoever was up there, and it wasn't Lee, he was not alone. There's a photograph which I published in several of my books and in my magazine, which shows somebody in the western window, the westmost window on the 6th floor. Excuse me, of course in a still photograph it's not in motion, but it is a human figure, it's the right size, it's the right position. And it is a black and white photograph, but it does show somebody in the western end. It had never been discovered before because whenever this photograph was printed, they cut out the left end of the picture, and the character who appears there in that window is always cropped out. It's always in the western border at the border of the negative itself, and through either intentional or accidental occurrences, it's never shown. One Sunday, I was at the offices of the HSCA, looking at some evidence or whatever, what have you, and I glanced into this room, this small conference room, and on the table were thousands and thousands of bits of photographic evidence, prints, negatives, all kinds of stuff. And I asked what it was, and they told me, oh, this is all photographic materials we've been looking at, we're sending them back. I said, "Can I look?" He said, "Well, it's your job. Go right ahead." So I went in there, I looked, and I found the original negative that showed the sixth floor window, that showed the entire sixth floor. And I looked at the negative through a magnifier, and I saw that there's an extra set of windows that had never been shown before. And I borrowed the negative, took it home, and used my enlarger and blew it up. And sure enough, there's an image of another person on the sixth floor. Well, it's the opposite end from where the sniper's nest is. And for those of you who are familiar with the sixth floor, you know there are no dividers. The entire sixth floor there is just one big room. And whoever was in this window would have been seen by whoever's in that window, and vice versa. So there was in fact, more than one person on the sixth floor at that time. This was an important discovery, one of many, many, but the government never revealed any of that, which is really sad. ITEC, again, could have revealed all of this stuff, but they didn't. CBS and all the other entities relating to this wanted no part of it anyhow. Other rifles found. We saw something a couple of days ago here about a report on CBS in, I guess it was Fort Worth, maybe it was Dallas, talking about a British Enfield 303 and 3 shells found in the sniper's nest that were matched to a Enfield. Well, this is not what's in the official report, but several years ago, I found some photographs that showed the police examining a British Enfield 303 on Houston Street after it had been passed down from the fire escape that used to be on the eastern end of the book depository. It's from a color film, and in fact that's exactly what it is. It's not a shotgun, it's not a Carcano, it's an Enfield. So the fact that a report was originally made and then suppressed talking about this Enfield or an Enfield is an important piece of corroborating evidence. A bullet shell was found on the roof of the county records building, which is a 30-06 bullet shell. It was found years after the assassination. The roof, which is now, as of a couple of weeks ago, been taken off. There is no more roof up there. There will be a new one sooner or later, but not now. It's all gone. The original roof, the one that had been up there at the time of the assassination and up until just a little while ago, was a flat roof, and it had tar paper on it. Flat tar paper, waterproofing tar paper. And at the end of it, just before this little parapet, this cement parapet near the edge, was some metal flashing to hold the tar paper down. And underneath the tar paper and the flashing by the tar paper, a bullet shell was found. Based on the weathering of the shell, it had been there for a very long time. It's impossible to date exactly how long it had been there. But I have the shell. I bought the shell from the guy who found it. And it is a 30-06, and it, in fact, from the exact spot where it was found, it matches the bullet mark that is by the manhole cover on the south side of Elm Street, where a bullet hit during the shooting, and where the police, FBI, sheriff's office, what have you, were around picking up what was described as a bullet right after the assassination. There's all this additional evidence which confirms that the bullet shell up there is legitimate, or could very well have been legitimate, relating to the actual assassination. Back in 1977, I think it was, I started working for the House Select Committee on Assassinations. At the very, very beginning, I was, I believe, the first person hired by them, and was hired as photo analyst by Congressman Downing. And one of the things we were most interested in was the sixth floor window and the depository doorway. And the issue of the doorway related to who might have been there. Was it Lee Harvey Oswald? Was it Billy Lovelady? Was it somebody else? Nobody knew for sure. I had already written twice that, in fact, I thought it was Oswald in the doorway. I was desperate to think so. A perfect alibi for him. Well, the HSCA found Billy Lovelady. He was living near Denver, and they flew me and another investigator out there to interview him, and we did. A fascinating interview. One of the very first, if not the first interview done for the HSCA. And Billy was very friendly, very cordial, very nice, very cooperative. And we asked him quite a few questions, one of which, of course, related to the design of the pattern of the shirt that he was wearing that day in the depository doorway. By the way, he did identify it was him in the doorway, without any question. There's Lovelady in the doorway. He confirmed it. His wife confirmed it. And people who were in the doorway confirmed it. Nobody saw Lee in the doorway. But Lee was not in the doorway. He was not on the sixth floor. He was elsewhere. We know that now, too. In any case, Billy said that he was wearing a shirt, a red and blue plaid patterned shirt, an overshirt, with a white T-shirt underneath it. So we brought up the question of the photographs that were taken by the FBI. The FBI showed photographs they had taken of him when he went down there to be photographed by them. And we said, well, what's the story with the shirt? He said, well, they called me up and wanted me to be there. I said, do you want me to wear the same shirt I was wearing that day? They said, no, we just want your face. Okay. So he put on a broad vertical striped shirt, and that's what he was photographed in. But when the FBI wrote the report, they said, Billy Lovelady with the shirt he was wearing that day in the doorway. No, it was not the same shirt. And he confirmed it. I asked, wow, if you only still have that same shirt. He says, oh, I do. He saved it. He had it in a plastic bag in his basement, plastic bag to protect it. And he went and he got it and he put it on. And I was photographed with him wearing that shirt. I published it. It's in the book. And he confirmed without any question that it was him. We interviewed his wife along with him. And she said, well, Lee looked a lot like Billy. They looked a lot alike. And she told a story that a week before the assassination, she had gone to the depository to do something with Billy, to give him some information or bring him a sandwich or something of that nature. And the actual interview is on the tapes that we made when we interviewed him. They're available. The transcripts are available now through the National Archives. And she said that she saw Billy across the second floor and called him over. And he came over, and it wasn't Billy at all. It was Lee. That's how much they looked alike. Now, there was a difference in age. One was 24, the other was like 32 or something like that. But there was a difference. They did look a lot alike, slightly different heights and what have you, and difference in weights and age and what have you. I do publish a photograph of Billy and Lee together in the police station that afternoon. It's an interesting bit of occurrence. But the question as to the man in the doorway, for history and for those who believe that it's Lee, it would have been great. I was the first one to write that I thought it was Lee in the doorway. I published it in the original first editions of JFK: The Case for Conspiracy. Published the photographs and saying Oswald in the door, blah blah blah. I was wrong. By the time I wrote High Treason, I admitted that I was wrong, and I set that straight. Very soon thereafter, I discovered a young lady by the name of Geraldine Reed, who was talking to Lee as the shots went off. Lee had been having his lunch in the lunchroom, the snack room on the second floor. And about a minute before the actual shooting, Lee went in with a dollar bill. He wanted change for the Coca-Cola machine. Back in those days, Coca-Cola machines did not make change the way they do today. Lee wanted change for that, and he asked for change, and she's counting out the change into his hand as the shots went off. Lee had an airtight alibi. That's why they couldn't let him live. They had to silence him so there'd never be a trial. And it's really a shame. Geraldine Reed was called to Washington. She testified to the behind closed doors to the Warren Commission, and they insisted that she keep her mouth shut, that she not talk about it, and she never did publicly. As far as I know, she spoke about this to about a half a dozen people, maybe more. I knew about a half a dozen of them, and she's dead now, unfortunately. But it's a shame. There were other people who could have confirmed that Lee did not do it, that he was not there on the 6th floor. It's a shame, It was not the sort of thing that they wanted that kind of evidence out. But there's all of that. Let's see, what have we got here? I was talking about Cyril Weck before. Cyril told a story some years ago, which I never forgot. And some of you may have been there at the time. This was back in the 1990s, and he appeared at an Ask conference at the Union Tower, and on the first floor of the building with the Union Tower. And he told a story, and he was talking about the Warren Commission, when they did their analysis of the gunshots and what have you, and the single bullet theory.
Tell us like it is.
Yeah. And Cyril said something. He said it in Yiddish, and my Yiddish is not that good. It's not good at all. I'm going to attempt it, but it'll be a mistake, and then I'll translate it into English. Ob mein Bubi dat Besem Zivot Zain mein Zeda. And what it means is, if my grandmother had balls, she'd be my grandfather. So it's if President Kennedy had been singing like this, if Governor Connolly had been singing like this, then the single, what have you. And he said, if. And that's, I never forgot it. It's so indicative of the reality and the logic behind all of this. It's what we have and what we can deal with to try to find the truth. The problems we've got are such that the timing is off. The angles are off. The reactions are off. The witness testimonies are all off based on the official single bullet theory. All of this relates to analysis of the Zapruder film. The Zapruder film is the single most important piece of evidence that we have. It is absolutely legitimate. Janet and I worked for quite a while doing a report on this, proving scientifically, based on photographic analysis and what have you, that this Zapruder film is completely genuine. Why the analysis that the film has been retouched like that is bogus, it's false, it's easy to disprove. But we did not have time to finish the report. By next year, we will have a report for you, and we'll have a handout for you so you can see for yourself. Maybe we'll have a PowerPoint by then too to show what this all is. The point of the matter is that the biggest single piece of evidence proving that Lee did not and could not do it is the Zapruder film. And for those who are trying to say that the film is not genuine, they're trying to destroy the best piece of evidence that we have. The reason why we even have a case, the reason why we're all here, the reason why there's been investigations since 1975 is because of the release of the Zapruder film. We cannot be hoodwinked into thinking that the film is not genuine or that it's been faked in any way. It is a legitimate film. The car did not stop. The car slowed down. And the perspective of some of the witnesses that say it did stop is from where they were. If they were in the motorcade, the witnesses were in the motorcade behind where the where their observations occurred, it's because they saw the lights come on the president's car. From their perspective, oh, the lights came on, the car stopped. They had no idea, they couldn't tell from that perspective, number one. Number two, several of those were in cars behind the president that did stop. So their perspective was that did too. If you read the testimony of those who said it stopped, they didn't say it at all. They said it almost stopped. It slowed down. It was stopping. They never said it stopped because it didn't. The Zapruder film, the Nix film, the Muchmore film, the Bronson film, and probably the Oliver film, if we had it, we know the other four do show it didn't stop. We don't have the fifth one because the FBI confiscated it and we've never seen it. I defend the Zapruder film for obvious reasons. It's been a large part of my life. I have dealt with it now since the 1960s. I've lived with it every day. I've probably seen it more than anybody else on the face of the earth. I've done photographic analysis of it. For those of you who know what rotoscoping is a technical term for a stabilization process where you take a shaky image and you stabilize it visually. Well, now it's being done digitally through computers and like that. When I did it on the Zapruder film, it was all analog. It was all on the actual film itself through an optical printer. And the way the system works is you take the film and you photograph it, rephotograph it, every single frame, one frame at a time. You shoot a frame, you advance the frame, you then change the vertical and horizontal alignment so that you're photographing some specific point. In this particular case, the president's ear is what I used, the right ear. And then when you position it, you photograph it again, then you advance to the next frame, then you reposition it again, and you photograph the next frame. To do the 486 frames of the film takes about 3 or 4 hours, just to do a 21-second piece of film. I did it with the president, and that's what I've released. That's what you've all seen. But I didn't just do it with the president. I did it with the president. I did it with Governor Connolly. I did it with Jackie. I did it with a driver. I did with witnesses in the plaza, the umbrella man, all kinds of people. These exist. I still have these films. And so the micro-study on the film is extremely important. And to challenge the legitimacy of the Zapruder film is painful. So I really, really defend it because I know it's legitimate. I have handheld the original film in my hands more than once. I know that it's legitimate. Those who claim that it's a fake have never touched the original film. They've been nowhere near it. So anyway, once again, enough of that. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you. Let's see, what else have we got here? People have brought up a great deal about the arrests in Dealey Plaza, the tickets and like that. Most of you are familiar with the story, but the story is essentially this. I came down around 1995 to let people know that there was an alternative to the official fiction as told by the sixth floor. They say Ali acted alone, blah, 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 the government was right, the Warren Commission was right, blah, blah, blah. And they're still saying it to this day. They know better. They do know better, but you know they're making a lot of money up there, so they tell you their story. The county, city, what have you, owned the building. If the sixth floor told the truth, they'd get kicked out of there, and the city wants you to believe the lie. They want everybody to believe the lie. Well, here's a couple of people in the plaza, and they're telling an alternative story. Most of them are homeless people, some are junkies, some know nothing about the case. They just put something together and they talk to people. They stop them in the street and harass them until they get money, and then they go away. Well, here they got a guy on the grassy knoll with, at the time, videotapes, later magazines, and then DVDs and books and the whole bit, with some degree of credibility, with a history in the case, who is telling, well, this is not true, and this is true. They didn't want that. So the Sixth Floor Museum, an organization in Dallas called Downtown Dallas Incorporated, and the Dallas police and local government from City Hall on down wanted me out of there. They started ticketing. one after the other, with ticket. Each time we had to leave the plaza, blah, 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 and then we come back the next day or later that afternoon, whatever, and they come back and they just compound it again and again, and then I had to go to court 84 times to defend these tickets, against these tickets. And in every single case, the judges threw them out as baseless. I had broken no laws, but it was pure harassment. And after a while, one of the judges, the chief judge of the state said, "Look," he said, "this is not a local case. This is a federal case. They're violating your First Amendment rights. You should sue them." Well, it's an expensive, time-consuming operation, but after a while, we realized they were not going to go away, and it got worse and worse, especially when they threw me in jail twice for this, just for simply talking about the assassination. So I sued them. It took 7 years, but won. I had to sue the city, I had to sue the Sixth Floor Museum, because we found out during discovery that the Sixth Floor Museum was conspiring with the city and Downtown Dallas, Inc. to get rid of me. What we're told by the police is if they got rid of me, they could get rid of everybody. And they were saying, the police themselves were very supportive, the actual policemen themselves. They were being told what to do. They were apologetic to me. As they were putting the handcuffs on and throwing me in the back of the police car, I said, "Listen, we're sorry, but we're just following orders." That's what they said in Germany in the 1940s. Anyway, so that's the story about the tickets and like that. The federal judge in one of the cases ordered the city to leave me alone. And they did. They haven't harassed me since, but they were under federal orders to, in fact, to leave me alone. So there's that. Positive stuff relating to the story, my story. Some years ago, an organization in Europe produced a documentary called Plaza Man, which is a biography of me, which I'm very, very proud of. And it will be available very, very soon on DVD. Another one is being done now. It's called, the tentative title, as I understand it now, is called The Promise. And it's about a promise that I made to President Kennedy at his graveside back in 1968, 67, 68, that I would do everything within my power to try to find the truth about what happened to him. And for the last, well over half a century, I've kept that promise and still doing it. I'm sure you're aware that I'm in Dealey Plaza just about every weekend on the grassy knoll. I'm not alone, I have help, and you'll be hearing about that in a little while. It has nothing to do with me, it's an independent thing, but we work together. Anyway, we will keep doing this as long as we have to. We defy the Sixth Floor Museum. The Sixth Floor Museum is indoors. They're air conditioned in the summertime, they're heated in the wintertime. They're protected from the rain, the snow, what have you. We're out there. We've been out there in 20-odd degree weather. We've been out there in over 100-degree weather many, many times. And we've been out there in the rain. We've been out there in the snow. We're out there because there needs to be somebody with credibility to tell people that there's an alternative to what I call the official fiction. And there's plenty of that. Beyond the tickets and what have you, one time we were outside of the arrests for the Dallas police, we actually were approached by Homeland Security in gray uniforms saying Homeland Security with machine guns, the whole bit. And they said that it was reported that we were terrorists. And yeah, well, we are. Yeah, of course we are. Of course we are. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. In any case, this went on again and again and again, and again it was just intimidation, trying to get us out of there. but it didn't work. We're still there. There was a chemical attack some years ago, September 12th. I can't remember the exact year, but we were there. We were standing, talking to each other. It was during a break. There was very few people in the plaza, and there were 5 of us, and we were talking about what was going on. And all of a sudden, this noxious smell came from behind us. If you're familiar with the grassy knoll, we're between the stockade fence and the retaining wall, and we're there, and we're facing toward the west, and what have you. And from the east, from where the hedges are, we turn around, and here's this cloud of gook in the air, and 3 people there in hazmat suits. With the hoods on and all, and chemical containers on their backs, and they're spraying us. Well, they kept doing it. We had to say, stop. They just kept doing it. Well, we followed them back to the truck, and we found out that based on the bags on the back of this truck were different containers saying chlorpyrifos. Chlorpyrifos is an insecticide which was very soon thereafter banned federally because of the danger to humans. And until recently was still done, but the local federal government has now made it available again. It's no longer banned. The local public name of this chemical was called Dursban, and it is no longer restricted, but all 5 of us ended up being hospitalized. 1 died. Yeah, his name was Barry. He was a bit older, and he did not survive it. The other 4 of us were hospitalized for a while. I sued the city, and we had, unfortunately, a corrupt judge who threw it out. We did not have a chance to even present the evidence. We never got a chance to even get in front of a jury, period. But they got away with it. That's Dallas. Welcome. Beyond that, there have been several attacks in the plaza. One with a baseball bat, one with a wooden chair, one with a knife, a hunting knife. I've been very, very lucky, survived all of those, and I guess I'm lucky because I'm still here. But again, it's all intimidation. It has been pointed out that they wanted to kill me. They could very easily do it. But most of you, I'm sure, believe a lot what I have to say. There's people out there that don't. But the theory is that if anything happened to me, those that don't say, hey, maybe he was on to something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just lying to myself to protect myself emotionally from the idea that I'd be in any danger. But after doing this for 56 years now, and I have been doing it for just under 56 years, I pretty much come to the conclusion that at this point of the game, they pretty much feel that any danger I was going to be, any danger I would do, any damage I would do has already been done. So I think that's pretty much of all I really wanted to say. I've been sitting here shooting my mouth off for a while. I'm assuming some of you have some questions you might want to ask. Okay. Yeah. Well, before we start, we're gonna have a question here. But I want to say, we all owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to Judith, and to thank her for all of this.
Question, Bob?
Wait, okay. This is working.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to say that I admire this man so much and all that he's been through and what I've always given him, and we want him. And now officially, we don't even agree on certain things, and he knows that. The point is, if I disagree with him on the Zapruder film, or if I disagree with him about that, I believe Lee was on the first floor because he loved Dr. Pepper so much and hardly ever had a Coke if he could get one, and that I believe he was in the domino room on the first floor, and the Warren Commission wants us to believe that he was on the second floor all the time. These little things, I mean, I put it little because no matter whether you believe the Zapruder film had some alterations or not, and I'm going by blood spatter analysis, that what comes up should come down and we don't see it in another frame. The point is, it doesn't make any difference because both, and if you have the one version or the other, the film, what we've got left, is authentic, and that's the way I look at it. What was done to parts of the film, we may disagree on and all that, but the essential parts of the film we agree on absolutely. That he was shot from the front, you can see all that. They can't, either the film is completely, distinctly never been tampered with, or if it has, it didn't work. So both of us can be right. I've always felt like they want to divide us on these things. We don't want to be divided. No matter which way you look at it, he didn't do it. And the film shows he didn't do it, no matter which way you want to take the film. So that's the way I feel about that. So it's when these, the same goes for who's in the doorway. If it's prayer man, if it's doorman, whatever, one thing we know, that Lee Oswald didn't do it, and we cannot put him on the 6th floor, no matter how we do it. So it doesn't matter about fighting about whether, in my opinion, it was the doorman because I did a short analysis. In my opinion, if Bob Groden says that it wasn't him in the doorway because he believes somebody I don't believe, but you feel like you do it, you have the right to your opinion. You saw him and I didn't. You interviewed him and I didn't. So I feel like we are mutually agree on one thing. He was not on the 6th floor, and no matter whether you take one batch of evidence or the other, what you've got is, no matter which version you take, he's still on the 6th floor, he didn't do it, and we're not going to be divided over things like this. Okay?
Well, one point that I definitely want to make, this is something that Janet and I have been talking about a lot lately. Is a central part of our argument that the film, in fact, is legitimate. It has been argued that the film was faked to hide something at around the time of the headshot, give or take, a couple of frames, what have you. The point of the matter is the film was cut in 2 spots earlier on. The frames are not missing anymore. I published them in the book and in the magazine. I found the actual missing frames from the Secret Service copy, which was made before the original film was damaged by life. And those 6 missing frames, damaged frames, I published them all. They're not gone. The point of the matter is, since the film was cut earlier, how difficult would it have been, since no one had seen the film, to just cut out the entire headshot sequence? That's what you would do, logically, if you wanted to hide it. You wouldn't want to show the president hit and thrown to the rear. That's the last thing you'd want to show. If you're going to cut anything out, that's what you would cut. If you're going to fake anything, that's what you would cut. It didn't happen because the film's legit. Anyway, got a question?
Robert,
Yeah.
I haven't heard this addressed much at the conference. What's the opinion of experts like yourself and the others? We figure there were maybe 3 windows up on the 6th floor that were people in, the Daltex building, the building that's getting torn the roof off right now. Why do you think they didn't just hit them coming down Houston Street with a wide open, no angles, no trees, no, what's the general consensus about that, as opposed to waiting until, coming, or at the hairpin turn, the 120-degree turn?
Since the late 1960s, I've been asking that very same question. When I first found a film that shows the motor team coming down Houston Street from the 4th, that was taken from the 4th floor, it shows the president's car coming, slowing down, no sunlight reflection. It's the perfect shot. If you're going to shoot the president and you're the only one up there, that's the shot you would take. No question. The reason for not taking that shot is to wait for a crossfire. You've got the president between shots from the front and the rear. There's no chance for escape. If you fire as the president's car comes, he could have gone around, going up the Houston Street extension, one way or the other. Right. The thing is, if you wait for the turn, the president is slowed down from at that particular point 11 miles per hour to 5.2 miles per hour. But you wouldn't know that unless it was part of the plan, because the car should have sped back up to 35 miles per hour again. It did not. Except for a conspiracy, you wouldn't know that that was going to happen. Second of all, if you look where the sun was at the time that the car was going down Elm Street, you'd see that all that chrome on the car would be reflecting sunlight off of that chrome into the eyes of the shooter back there. You wouldn't want that. So there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't wait unless you're waiting for the crossfire. So to answer your question, the reason why I think it didn't happen on Houston Street is just because of that. Wait for the crossfire.
Bob, I got a question, deals with your relationship with Blakey and the photos, which you were descending on the backyard photos. You know, how did they come to that conclusion? And also, I had heard that you wanted the committee, and when they were investigating with the acoustical analysis, to do more than just from the sixth floor depository and the grassy knoll. They didn't do that. So it's your relationship with Blakey on those two issues.
Okay. A couple of things. The backyard photographs. I spent several hours with Marina Oswald in Connecticut at breakfast time in a kitchen for quite some time after I had written the Killing of a President. And during that conversation, I asked her about the backyard photographs. She told me she didn't take those. She said she took photographs of them, but not those photographs. Those are not the ones she took. She said she was standing at the foot of the stairs, and the photographs she took were aimed toward the alleyway. The ones we have seen were taken from the alleyway looking toward the stairs. That's that. As far as the acoustics evidence goes, and thanks for bringing that up, there were 4 of us who worked on the acoustics evidence for the HSCA. Jim Barger, Mark Weiss, Ernest Ashkenazi, and me. Went to the Library of Congress to synchronize the sound recordings that they made from the motorcycle tapes of the shooting with the Secret Service copy of the Zapruder film, which is intact, no missing frames. So it's the closest to an exact time reference to it. They did a time correction based on the 60-cycle hum on the acoustics tape. We synchronized the 2 of them together and made a sound copy of the Zapruder film, which is what was shown before Congress. We did it 2 ways. We took the frame of 313, the explosion frame, and we took the 3rd of the 4 confirmed shots and the 4th one, and we put them both with that frame. If you did it one way, you ended up with the head exploding at the third shot, the one that was confirmed as coming from the front. That's what we all agreed was true. And then we did it Blakey's way, with the 4th shot from behind hitting the head, both ways. If you do it Blakey's way, none of the other shots align with anything else that happens on the film. If you did it my way, our way, you have the fatal shot coming from the front, another one happening exactly 0.7 of a second later. That fits. If you do it that way, with the front shot hitting the head, everything else lines up perfectly, exactly. But that meant that whether it was Oswald or anybody else on the 6th floor, he didn't kill the president. That's the whole point. And they didn't want that, because it really made everybody else look stupid, which they were. But But anyway, that was an important point, a very important point, because when I wanted to talk about that and testify about that and talk to the actual congressman about it, Blakey warned me if I said a word, he'd have me thrown in jail. So I had to keep my mouth shut, and I'm gagged, effectively, and I can't say a word. And the congressmen are all there. I'm projecting the film for them both ways, and they're all agreeing with my analysis, every one of them. And Blakey told them they were all wrong, and I couldn't defend what I knew to be true. That's the relationship that I had with Blakey.
Oh, we have time for one more question.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask your opinion. If Oswald was in the book depository, second floor, first floor, why would he not have been in a position to see the president come down the street? Or why would he have been at the Coke machine? Anywhere where he could not see the president, it just doesn't, it's not reasonable, it doesn't make sense. Thank you.
The room where he was at the time of the shooting did have windows, but the one he had been in just prior to that, in the snack room, there were no windows. He couldn't see it. Why was he there? We may never know. My hypothesis, my theory has always been that he had ordered to be there to wait for a phone call. The switchboard for the incoming calls into the depository were right across the vestibule from where he was waiting. I think he was ordered to wait there for a call. I think that's why he was there. Otherwise, I think he would have been there to see the president, whether it's because he admired the president or because he was politically involved or because everybody else wanted to be down there too. Yeah, I don't have an answer as to why. I don't think we'll ever know. But there is a logical answer, and the answer is that he was his job not to be there. And that could have been part of a setup so that there wouldn't be witnesses. I don't know. But there were a lot of people on the first floor in the vestibule, the area at the top of the stairs. Not a single one of them saw Lee there. Not one. I know he was not on the 6th floor. Geraldine Reed, this sweet little older lady, told me that she was talking to Lee as the shots went off. I believe her. I have no reason not to believe her. She was deathly afraid. She wouldn't let, on the 2nd floor, yes, in her office. She was the one who was left behind to watch, to answer the switchboard, to take care of the cash box, the petty cash, like that. And she did not have seniority, so she's the one they left behind. She wasn't able to see the motorcade either. And there were two Mrs. Reeds, Geraldine Reed and Dolores Reed. There was a real show game played by the Warren Commission. They talk about Mrs. Reed. They never mention her first name. Never Geraldine, never Dolores. Mrs. Robert Reed, Mrs. R. Reed. You know, they never mentioned the fact that there were two of them. In all, I don't know how many millions of words within the Warren Commission volumes, there is not a single mention anywhere of Geraldine Reed, period, except in somebody else's testimony mentioning her in passing. They mentioned her as her friend, and blah, blah, blah. No mention of the actual event itself. But that's the game they were playing. Thanks.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Robert Groden. Yes, yes. I think it would be safe to say that Robert Groden is an American hero. I knew of his 84 tickets, but I had no idea of the personal attacks that you'd been subjected to. And I cannot believe your bravery and your commitment to still be out there after all these years and all those attacks on you. You, sir, are a hero. Thank you.